Okay, for the last part in this Texas style video, we're going to expand from the pentatonics to the modes. Now the modes are collectively known as diatonic, which is a fancy name for a 7-note scale. Let's check 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there's the octave. 7-note scale. Okay. Now, we don't normally use the modes for blues because it doesn't get a very bluesy sound normally. And I thought I'd do this one over here instead of doing the traditional minor blues scales, because that's what we normally do because they sound cool. And I want to show us that this can also sound cool. Now, I hope that you know your natural minor scale is going to look and sound like this, starting at fret 5. The natural minor is also known as the Aeolian mode. It's in step 5 of your PDF file. It's going to look and sound like this. That's going to go 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8 again, 5, 7, moves back quickly to fret 4, 4, 5, 7, forward again, 5, 6, 8, and finishes with 5, 7, 8. Now I'm not going to break down all the scales that are on this page. I'm assuming that you know how to read your tabs by now. If you've got any hassles or any questions, any queries, any suggestions, just drop me a WhatsApp or drop me an email. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jam through with the same backtrack we've been using for the study, and we're going to see and hear how the modes sound. It's going to give a different sound to it, different vibe to it, but it's still going to sound cool. Some of you might love it, some of you might feel it's not really bluesy enough, but let's have a listen. You make the decision. Some nice little phrases we can put inside here from the Aeolian. There's a little pedaling technique that I put inside there for the fun of it. It's one of my personal little favorites. Definitely not bluesy, but I thought it sounded quite sweet. Slow motion. So you'll notice every alternative note was the starting note, fret 8, and then the rest of the fingers sort of went backwards, in other words, descending in the scale. But in between each of these notes, I went back to the starting note. Just fun, I thought I'd show you that riff. Now, in step 5, we've introduced the diatonic. It gives, as you can hear, a slightly different vibe to it. We're not restricted to have to use the scale. At any time, you can cross over to the pentatonic because the pentatonic is inside the scale. You could have also combined it with the minor blues. You could have put a harmonic minor note inside it. There's so much we can do that we will cover in other videos. This one is to get the modes involved. Now, for when we change to D, let's say we wanted to shift up to the 10th fret. So we need a mode that can help us from the 10th fret. Now, in other videos, we will discuss the modes, the positions, and importantly, tonality. Now, we're not going to go into the tonality of the modes now. We're going to use them for positioning. Okay, so there's a lot more to the modes than just position. But like we said, that's another video. So we're looking at just to help us get around the fretboard. Now the Dorian, starting on D. And then the Phrygian starting on E. All three of these modes you've learnt in this video contain exactly the same notes. Now, if you look at the first one, the notes are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. This one started on D. It goes D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. And the last one started on E. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. So inside the modes, one of the important lessons, one of them, is to realize that all the modes sit within each other, which might sound a bit confusing, but think of it. If I played the A minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and I started on the 4th note, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's D. So in effect, if I had started my natural minor, my Aeolian from here, in other words, skip the first 3 notes, I'm effectively playing this. Same thing. So it's important to realize that the modes actually have a common link, and they've also got different diatonic values or different tonality values, which we'll get into later. It's got to do with minor fills, major fills, flattened sevenths, sharpened fourths, and all the other things. Very exciting stuff, but not now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump again with the backtrack over here. And this time, every time the chord changes, I'm going to change position so you can hear different types of effect, how the diatonics sound, and make up your own call. Maybe you can put some own riffs and that into it as well, but experimentation is the key here. Here we go. Did there is because I'm not really sort of freestyling completely. I'm trying to keep in track how I can demonstrate the scales to you. When I went through the E, D back to the A, I did this, for example, which is part of the Phrygian, into the Dorian, and that phrase in itself actually sort of leans into a descending fashion. You can hear it. And then down to the A Herlian. So it's got a similar sort of concept the whole way through, but I'm playing the notes inside the Phrygian. And it works. So ultimately over here, because all three of these modes that I've demonstrated in step 5, the A Herlian starting on A, D for the Dorian, and starting the Phrygian on E, they all have the same notes. I can play anywhere I like. So how do you decide which scale to play and when? And the answer is whenever you want. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing right. Well, everything is right as long as you stay with inside the scale shapes. And then obviously as regarding the speed, I intentionally went it for speed there so you can hear the effect of the scale. What I'm going to do now is go a little bit slower, and you can hopefully see some of the riffs, and you can hear that it also works. Staying modal now, so we're going to capitalize in those notes there, those notes there, just to give us a different sound to the blues vibe. And here we go. If you want to go completely fun and fast, you can do something like this. Take the gain a little bit higher. Check this out. So you can really have fun, and that's the important thing I want us to get out of this lesson over here, is to have fun. Learn the riff, see how the riff links up to the scales. We did it in the second video with the Pentatonics. We took it one step further to the diatonic, meaning 7-note collective note. Looked at some of the modes. Did a slow solo. We'll do one just to close off on clear because we can, just to sit and give a different vibe. And bottom line is they all work. So we're going to keep the tempo up and we're going to slow the playing down. There's no speed requirement for this. Just enjoy the scale. Okay. And to finish it off,